Welcome into the podcast, everybody. I bet you weren't expecting this voice. We're trying something new here. I am Brett. This is Brandon.
What up, guys? I'm still here. Don't worry.
Yeah, he is still the host.
Hostess with the mostest.
Yeah, we're trying out something. We're trying out something new. Trying to switch things up in the off season, see what sticks. Which means it's a great time for you to go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a comment, say, hey, not my host.
Oh,
if you're sick and tired of listening to me, just tell us how much you like Brandon, and be sure to subscribe. But we are the 423 Football Podcast, coming at you today with our free agency preview, wide receivers.
Wide receiver edition.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. If you haven't already, last week we did running backs. That was a great conversation. We did running backs last week, right?
We did.
It was mixed up.
About a week ago.
About a week ago, we did running backs. But today we're talking wide receivers. Before we get into the rankings and our consensuses and all of that, where we think they're going, all that good stuff, I want to talk about what's going on right now in the NFL world, the Combine. Today, Sunday, I don't even know what tomorrow is. What is tomorrow?
Monday.
Well,
you'll be listening to this on Monday.
So you will be listening to this on Monday. But today, Sunday, we had a new record for linebackers for the 40-yard dash. Really impressive, but that was on defense. We're going to talk about some offensive standouts at the Combine. So, Brandon, what has been your standout from the Combine so far?
Well, obviously, Saquon Barkley has been arguably the best. I mean, we already knew what he was coming in, but the Combine's just proving that more and more. I'll let you talk about that here a little more in a second. Yep. But I had two names that really stood out to me. One at the wide receiver position, DJ Chark from LSU, ran a 4.34 40, which, I mean, talk about LSU wide receivers. That's faster than Odell's. That was faster than Jarvis Landry. I mean, stats show up there.
He also has one of the coolest names I've ever heard.
DJ Chark.
Sounds completely made up, but that's his name.
You should see some of the defensive linemen. Oh, my gosh. I couldn't even try to pronounce them. But, yeah, DJ Chark, 4.34 40, 40-inch vert. He's a little bit, I think he's 6'3", 200 pounds, a little bit on the light side for a wide receiver of his stature, but I think he's more than capable of possibly rising in the draft boards come April when the draft actually happens. So DJ Chark, he's definitely on my radar, probably moving up my list. I don't know if he's quite in my top 5 wide receivers yet. There's a lot of good wide receivers coming into the draft, so we'll just a name to keep track of. And another one, I know quarterbacks are all the rage right now for the top 10 picks really, and Sam Darnold, we didn't even get to see him throw, so he might have fallen on some radars. And honestly, he's kind of been dropping for me as well. Josh Rosen, we know what he is. Pure passer. Baker Mayfield's been the talk of the town. But Josh Allen really shut a lot of people up at the Combine the other day. Ran a 4.75 40, that's fantastic for his size at the quarterback position. He's like the size of Ben Roethlisberger, and he's got the arm of Jamarcus Russell. I know Jamarcus Russell's not the best name to be hearing at the moment, but Jamarcus Russell had a cannon for an arm. Josh Allen does too. But the fact that he can run a 4.75 and showed some athletic ability, I think Josh Allen might be moving up to my number 1 quarterback in this draft.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah. You want to talk Saquon?
Yeah. I mean, it was Saquon's world on Saturday. It was just...
We're just living in it.
Yeah, we're just living in it. It was an incredible showing. 4.41 40-yard dash. The boy's quick, which that one was probably the one that took me off surprise the most. I did not think he would score that well in the 40-yard dash. I don't know if you thought he was a little bit slower than that, but that's quick. I mean, that's moving.
I mean, the guy can go.
Yeah, and he's 6 foot tall, 233 pounds. He's not he's not huge. He's not, but I mean, he is a little bit bigger than some of the other running backs. He's, to give you some sort of frame of reference, that's 9 pounds heavier than David Johnson, 7 pounds heavier than Zeke, and 3 pounds heavier than Le'Veon Bell.
And faster than all of them.
And he's faster than all three. Combine that with a bench press of 29 reps, 225 pounds. That is really impressive.
Yeah.
for a running back like that.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean.
Yeah, and I tweeted out the other day. Again, at the 423 football. If you're following us over there, you should already have heard or seen this tweet by now.
Yep.
But yeah, 29 reps. That's more than Rob Gronkowski, J.J. Watt, Terrell Suggs. Just a few names to mention. Yep. More than David Bakhtiari. Lane Johnson, I believe, was on that list. Granted, running backs have shorter arms, and it's a little bit easier to get more reps in.
But not 29 of them.
I mean, yeah, but 29 is incredible. That's outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, normally your heavy hitters for the bench press, that's a huge factor in offensive and defensive linemen. That's a big scoring point. But when you can pull off numbers like that as a running back, that's pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. He's 6 foot tall. He scored a 41-inch vert on his vertical leap.
better than DJ Chark, and you wouldn't expect that for Chark 6'3", and obviously wide receivers usually have higher verts than running backs, but nah.
Yeah, so we're going to see Barkley jump over a few people this year, so I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think all of that combined together, he had an incredible showing. He was already in the top 3 overall consensus, I think.
Definitely.
On the radar, and I think with showing like that at the combine, he's just about secured the number 1 position overall.
Yeah, I've said he's been the best talent by far for months now, but apparently reports I think were coming out today at the combine saying that Cleveland was really locking in to possibly taking him number 1 overall, and that's pretty smart if you're Cleveland. You could easily take Barkley and then there's going to be at least 4 or 5 quarterbacks that are still available.
Oh, yeah. Just sign one of the free agency quarterbacks, get an upgrade there. You've already got...
even in the draft. I'm just saying in the draft.
Well, in the draft, too. I mean, if you don't go to free agency, you can still do that. And the Browns' offense is going to look completely different next year. I mean, you get in one of an upgrade at the quarterback position. You get Saquon Barkley in the backfield. You have one of the top offensive lines in the league. That offense looks completely different. Possibly still Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
And you've still got Corey Coleman.
We'll talk that in a minute.
Yeah. Possibly.
And we'll talk more of the combine in a few weeks, combine and draft in general in a few weeks. Yeah. We got, I guess, this show, and then next week we'll do tight ends, and then we'll start talking draft after that. Yeah. So pretty soon.
Yeah, pretty soon. Okay. Without further ado, let's get into the topic of today's podcast. Free agency, wide receivers. Kick it off at number 1.
We're going to go over before we get into the list, just a few teams that need wide receivers. I should mention Bears are high on the list for guys that probably need wide receivers. And again, when talking about wide receivers, I mean, you usually have 3 or 4 guys on the field at a time for the wide receiver, so every team is looking. Yeah, but
you're always adding depth. Yeah, to that position.
These are the teams that really, really need an upgrade at the wide receiver position. So Bears, they have absolutely no one at their number 1 position. Kevin White is just he hasn't been anything. Yeah. Cameron Meredith is coming off a horrific ACL injury. Yeah. Then 49ers, they're going to be looking for weapons for Jimmy Garoppolo. They're definitely going to be looking at wide receivers. Ravens, they can never really get a solid running or wide receiver rotation going. Panthers are still looking. Obviously, they got rid of Kelvin Benjamin. Devin Funchess had a very, very good year last year, but I'm sure they'd want to add some more pieces there. And Chiefs, Tyreek Hill is great. Travis Kelce's great. They still want a number 1 big wide receiver that they can trust. And then the Colts, I wrote them down as well. Dante Moncrief's a free agent. We don't know if they'll bring him back, but they got to get someone else that Andrew Luck can throw the ball to other than T.Y. Hilton. Which, I mean, T.Y. Hilton's great and all, but gotta have some more weapons out there.
Yeah.
Anyone I forget?
this one's kind of borderline for me. The Redskins, they got Jamison Crowder and Josh Doxson. Not a supreme talent
and
core
Alex
there.
Smith.
Well, yeah, and Alex Smith. You got to have someone for Alex Smith to throw bombs to, I guess.
Oh, God.
They may be, set with Crowder and Doxson, but as we'll get into a little bit later, Terrell Pryor is going to be a free agent, or is a free agent, so they may want to at least add some depth there. Yeah, I think that was the only one. I think I had all the other teams listed. All right, so now that I got ahead of myself, I was just so excited doing all this jumping around and
If you guys haven't noticed already, we love ranking things. We'll give you top 10 lists all day long. I mean they're fun to do. So
well, even in college, one of our favorite things to do was go onto Sporkle, and that's a great. Just you can go through the list and just do all of the. We used to do it for movies, sports. Obviously, that was the big one.
Definitely,
but those are super fun. So, even beyond the podcast, we love just ranks in general. Just rank it. Anything that has an option to be ranked, we'll rank it.
Give us any list, we'll rank them. I don't care what it is.
One caveat before we get into it: our number one would be Jarvis Landry. I think that would have been a consensus. He has been franchise tagged, but they're still talking about all of this. He could be traded to another team, even with the franchise tag. He's expected to sign the tag, but he might still end up somewhere else. So, but we did not include him in this list. So he is our honorary number one.
Honorary. There's an asterisk beside his name.
Yeah. So, without any further ado, I think I can say that now that we've covered everything. Who is our number one consensus free agent wide receiver?
All right, number one, no surprise here, Allen Robinson. He's definitely the most prototypical number one wide receiver on this list, in my opinion, and he's definitely proven it time and time again. He's only 25 years old, coming off an ACL injury from week 1 of last year, so he's definitely had more time to recover than, say, Cameron Meredith, who injured his later on in the season. But, in 2015, had 80 receptions, 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns. He was the number 4 wide receiver in fantasy. In 2016, took a little bit of a dip in his production. Obviously, the Jaguars, what they are now, completely different than what they were back then. Back then, it was just like, half the time, you were hoping just for garbage time for Allen Robinson to get his production. But now, in a more solid offense, you got... they're still going to be run heavy and everything, but I think that Allen Robinson and that Jacksonville offense, it's just a fit. I think Blake Bortles is a more than capable... Or I wouldn't say more than capable, but he is capable of... giving wide receivers opportunities to catch the ball, and Allen Robinson, just his size in general, makes it easy for Blake Bortles as well. And just his big body, he's a physical wide receiver, easily the most prototypical wide receiver one, I think, on our list.
And 2015, was his big year. I think he's number 4 wide receiver in fantasy, so... Obviously, we want more of that.
Yes, please.
That year,
I had him last year.
yeah, you did.
I had him for one drive. He got me like 6 points, or 0.6 points.
Yeah. In 2015, the Jaguars overall finished at 5-11. In 2016, we saw a drop in Allen's productivity. He only had 883 yards and 6 touchdowns, and the Jaguars were 3-13. But now that they actually have pulled together a really good team with a solid defense, if Allen Robinson stays with the Jaguars, I think that is a really good sign that we'll have maybe not quite up to 2015 numbers, but somewhere around that, somewhere closer to that than 2016, and hopefully not another injury.
Obviously, we don't know where he's going to end up, but if he, my prediction is the Jaguars will franchise tag him, and he will stay with the team for at least one more year. So, spoiler alert there. That's my predicted landing spot. But
I was on the edge of my seat waiting for that.
But I don't know. Maybe do you think the Jags possibly look at their team and say, hey, we got this stout defense. We got this incredible run game. Do we even need a guy like Allen Robinson anymore?
Yeah, and that's because they went as far as they did last year without him.
And they had receivers injured left and right all year.
They did, but they had some big pieces to that offense step up, and obviously the Leonard Fournette effect really helped them most of the season.
Definitely.
They may shift. I think that they should keep him. I think they really do need a more solid piece at the wide receiver position. I think Allen Robinson, you've got him, just ride him out.
Yeah,
because he's good.
And he's not injury prone whatsoever. Although the ACL, the ACL is a freak thing.
Yeah.
So don't let that scare you away.
Yeah. But everyone tears their ACL. So.
Everyone's done it at least once in their life. You're not cool if you haven't torn your ACL.
Yeah, it's propaganda.
Where do you have Mr. Robinson going?
I think that if the Jaguars are smart, they will franchise tag him and he'll stay with the Jaguars. But my prediction is he goes to the Packers.
I wouldn't be opposed. I don't really know how he'd fit in or where they'd move people around.
Right. They'd have to do some other things at the wide receiver position.
Yeah. Granted, I guess if that were to happen, I could see them doing... they already run 4 wide receiver sets pretty often, but I guess have Devontae and Allen on the side, on the outside, and then put Jordy and Randall in the slot because obviously Jordy's lost a little bit of a step, being on the older side and being
he's an old man. Yeah,
being a couple years removed from an ACL injury as well. Mm-hmm. So I guess I could see that, and obviously, that would be like the best case scenario for any of these wide receivers. Like Allen Robinson would easily jump into top 10, maybe even top 8 wide receivers in fantasy.
Yeah, because with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, you can pretty reliably rely on any wide receiver that's on the field for the Packers as far as fantasy.
Definitely.
When with a talent like Allen Robinson, that would just be multiplied. So
yeah, definitely.
That's great. Coming in at number 2, we have Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins. Big news last year was the trade that happened, I think, the week before the regular season started.
Yeah, I believe so.
A week or two.
We were standing right here waiting. we were about to go camping, and we were loading up the car, and then I got the notification.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, what on earth?"
Yeah, so that would have been the end of August. So that was surprising, and it didn't really work out in 2017. I was looking at his stats. He did have 8 touchdowns, which that just really surprised me when I was looking at it. I thought it was a mistake. But then
he was the Jimmy Graham of wide receivers last year. Not that much production over the between the 20s, but he got touchdowns.
He only had 593 yards, and that's not what you're looking for out of a wide receiver. But the 8 touchdowns, that is promising. So you have to look back at whenever we're talking about what we think he is going forward. You do have to kind of look back and see what he was before he was on the Rams. In 2016, he only played 8 games because of an injury. But he was drafted 4th overall in 2014 by the Bills. In his second year, 2015, he played 13 games with 60 receptions, about 1,050 yards, and 9 touchdowns. So the talent's there. He was drafted like they believed in him, and for some reason they obviously didn't because they traded him. But I think that he's a lot better than what he played this year. I think it's a combination of a lot of factors. So, in your mind, do you think what plays a bigger part? Do you think the injury in 2016 played a part in his role this year, or was it the trade to a new team, or some combination of both?
I think it was mainly the trade to a new team because I know health has been a big factor, but he stayed relatively healthy throughout this year. Got banged up here and there, but I just think, obviously, the Rams were trying to put a bunch of pieces together all at once, And the easiest way to do that with a new team is just ride your running back, and that's what we saw. We saw Todd Gurley just explode this year, and although I like what I saw out of Jared Goff, they didn't really let him loose that much, and that obviously trickles down to the production of wide receivers. None of the wide receivers other than Robert Woods, he had a great year, but Cooper Kupp and Sammy Watkins, they both got, they got theirs here and there. But I do believe if Sammy were to stay with the Rams, I think it'd be a lot better than what we saw this year.
Yeah.
I don't know if he gets 8 touchdowns again. That's still a lot, especially if he's not that. We don't really know if they're going to use him as that number one guy because they seem to like Robert Woods a lot, and obviously they're going to use Gurley a ton.
Yeah.
That's the focal point.
Because
so
why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I definitely expect, regardless of where he goes or if he stays, I expect the receptions to go up. I expect the yards to go up. 8 touchdowns is a lot. I think he's going to regress there. But he's still, people swear by Sammy Watkins. They swear that he's he's better than Julio Jones in a lot of people's minds. He just hasn't been staying healthy and getting on the field consistently.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the issue as far as drafting him for fantasy, is he still has that big name value, but he's, in terms of ranking his risk versus reward, he's a pretty risky asset.
Oh yeah, he definitely is, and that people might stray away from paying him.
Yeah.
The reason we haven't ranked it 2, I believe, is just the talent. The talent's still there in my mind, and if he can stay healthy, it's sky's the limit for Sammy Watkins.
Oh yeah, and you're talking about his reception. He only had 39 receptions.
Yeah,
last
that's
year.
got to go
and
up.
that just that's being worked into a new offensive system. The entire Rams offense looked different even without Sammy Watkins. So I think that's going to improve his. Wow, someone's trying to break into our little apartment here, but that's okay. With all that being said, I believe that he will remain with the Rams in 2018. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he stays with the Rams. I originally had him going to the Bears. I think that'd be an okay landing spot as well. They need a number 1 wide receiver for Mitch Trubisky. I don't think his value will be in fantasy. For instance, I don't think his value will rise that much going to the Bears, but I think that'd be a good fit. But yeah, I think he stays with the Rams, and I think his just production in general goes up being a second year, or being on that team for a second year, and with Jared Goff for a second year. Because, they were just kind of thrown in together at the beginning of last year.
Yeah, it was pretty last minute.
Yep. All right, number 3 on our list. Probably, arguably, one of the hardest players to evaluate in this year's free agency.
Very difficult.
Yeah, Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon, 27 years old, only 27 years old. He's still on the young side. He seems like he's been in the league forever. But he's actually a exclusive rights free agent, which basically that means he's kind of a restricted free agent, but not really. It's basically a restricted free agent, but the Browns have a deadline they must make an offer by, and if they don't make an offer, then he becomes a unrestricted free agent. So basically, teams, they can make an offer, and then they don't get compensated if he leaves. So basically, that's the difference between being a restricted free agent and an unrestricted free agent, or an exclusive rights free agent. But anyway, we all remember what Josh Gordon was. In 2013, finished with over 1,600 yards, 9 touchdowns, missed 2 games that year, finished as the number 2 wide receiver in fantasy. We look back, and all we really have to look at Josh Gordon's on-field ability is a few glimpses of a few seasons, but it was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. It was argue with those
absolutely
numbers.
incredible. Didn't really do a lot last year. 18 catches, 335 yards, and 1 touchdown. That was in 5 games. He's just now getting back from obviously all the legal trouble, the drug problem, alcohol, coming out of rehab. So I guess that's the big question of all of this with Josh Gordon is, can he stay out of trouble? Because I think the talent's still there and everything. He's never really been hurt or anything like that, but it's just the legal issues. Can he stay out of trouble?
Yeah, I think he's going to. It's just I don't know that we're gonna. I don't think we're ever gonna see 1,600 yards out of him again. It's just in my opinion, but if he does get in it, just like any legal issue ever, he's gonna be out. I mean, he's on his last leg, and that by itself is a huge risk when evaluating where to draft him going into 2018. I think he can do it. All the reports say that his coaches and teammates all believe in him. He seems legit and clean, everything like that. So you have to assume that he stays healthy, but at the same time, you've got to factor that into where you're willing to take him next year.
Yeah. And I'll just go ahead and say I think the Browns are going to keep him. I think he's their most talented player offensive player until the draft, obviously, which hopefully they'll get some good weapons. I think their quarterback's either going to be A.J. McCarron for next year or Josh Allen. If Josh Allen's the guy, I think with his huge arm and Josh Gordon's ability to get down the field, I think that could be a dynamic duo.
It's physically a huge arm.
Yeah.
It's like a leg coming out of his shoulder.
It's just, Josh Allen is just it's an arm and a body, and that's it. He doesn't need anything else. It's just a cannon. But yeah, Josh to Josh sounds like a pretty good 1-2 punch there. So where do you got him? Where do you have Josh Gordon?
I also have him staying with the Browns. I think they've stuck with him. They've had chances to get rid of his rights. They've stuck with him through thick and thin. Yep. Most of it's been through the thick, but I don't think that they're and especially since he's not a true free agent. I think that helps just kind of make the case to just keep him on.
Yeah.
So going into someone a little bit more of a known entity at number 4, Marquise Lee, 26-year-old for the Jaguars, really stepped up this year in the wake of all of their wide receiver injuries they had on that team. We already talked about Allen Robinson, but Marquise Lee, nothing shabby. I mean, that was you could say it was a breakout season. In just last year, he had 56 receptions for 702 yards, not too bad. Three touchdowns. I'll take it. Coming from Blake Bortles, I'll take it. Where that team, they're going to rely on Leonard Fournette going forward. I mean, that's clear. I mean, that's what they want to do. They want to control the game with their defense and then pound the rock with Leonard. And you can't argue with that strategy because it worked most of the season.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what do you think about Marquise Lee going forward?
I like him. I like the talent. I like what he's been able to provide the Jaguars. I just think he's probably going to be better suited elsewhere. There's not much room for a lot of guys, especially just production on that team, to produce at the wide receiver position. So, I think he can really step, because he's almost broken out the past 2 seasons, but he goes to the right team with the right personnel. I think he can really explode. Now, most of the teams that are in the hunt for wide receivers right now aren't really situations that are that great or that great of offenses. Which I'm going to the Bears, which not the best situation there. We don't really know that much about what Mitch Trubisky can do yet, but I certainly think he'll definitely see the receptions and targets up in Chicago if that were the case. But yeah, I like Marquise Lee. I like his talent. I like that he's pretty young at 26 years old. Just waiting for that breakout season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have him going to the Redskins. I have him receiving bombs from from old Alex.
That's not happening.
I don't think that's a bad fit for him. I can definitely see him going to the Bears. It's a little bit more of an unknown situation. Of course, the Redskins, they've moved some pieces around. They hate Kirk Cousins, whatever. But so they're going to look different as well. But I think Marquise Lee could be a good asset to kind of beef up that wide receiver core in Washington.
Yeah. All right, number 5 on our list, Paul Richardson, another 26-year-old. In 2017, had 44 receptions, 703 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I guess you could say that was his breakout year. Because he's been in the league longer than a lot of people think. But I think I like Paul Richardson and what he can bring. I think he's got really, really good ball skills. I think he can really fight through traffic and get tough receptions. Got in the end zone 6 times, so obviously the guy can score. He just really, in that offense, he's not the first guy that Russell Wilson's looking to. He's not the second guy. He's not even the third guy. Yeah. So I don't really see Paul Richardson being a number 1 anywhere, but I can definitely see him being a solid number 2, maybe a number 3 in a better offense. But honestly, other than that aspect of it, there's really not a better landing spot for Richardson in my mind than he's already in, just based on the quarterback that he has. Because Russell Wilson, he airs it out multiple times a game. Paul Richardson can get down the field, and we saw that with the 6 touchdowns. So, I don't know. I think the spot can be better, just possibly being a number 2 or number 3 wide receiver. But the quarterback situation, it can't get much better than what he's already in.
It can't. But I'm going to throw this at you, and if you don't like it, just throw it back at me. Paul Richardson to the Colts.
See, I thought about that, and I think Paul Richardson and Dante Moncrief are very, very similar.
Yeah.
And I feel like that...
But Dante Moncrief's also free agent.
Yeah, and we'll talk about him here in a second, but I don't know. I don't see why they wouldn't just keep Moncrief because he's already got a rapport with Andrew Luck. Granted, if Luck is healthy.
Yeah, this is all assuming that Andrew Luck is healthy.
But I'd like either situation. I think both would be about similar, but I don't know. I think Paul Richardson could have a better spot elsewhere, which is why I have him going to the Panthers.
Ooh.
I think they
Don't
need
do that to him.
Yeah. The Panthers really, really need someone other than Devin Funchess and Russell Shepard.
Yeah, no denying they do need a wide receiver, and that would be a good fit.
Yeah, I think that'd be perfect for him. But you have him going to the Colts?
I have him going to the Colts. It's not a terrible situation where he is right now. You're not mad with Russell Wilson being the quarterback.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of wide receivers in front of him, and that's the biggest thing. I think for fantasy-wise, if he could secure and lock down a number 2 wide receiver position, you could see true, reliable fantasy value in him. And I just don't really see that happening in Seattle as long as they keep all of their wide receivers.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to be willing to pay him, and I don't think he's going to be willing to take less money to be a number 4 wide receiver on a team.
Right.
So that I definitely think he's going to move on from Seattle. It's just where he ends up. I don't know.
We will see. Coming in at number 6, we've already talked about him. Spoiler alert.
Hint, hint.
Dante Moncrief from the Colts, coming off not that great of a year. He was not usable in fantasy.
Not his fault.
It's not his fault, no. He didn't have a solid quarterback situation the whole year. I saw Andrew Luck not play at all, ever.
Yep.
And that's going to hurt you no matter who you are. So, but looking back at 2015 and 2016, he had 2 solid years. He caught at least 6 touchdowns in each, and that's pretty good. That's and that's on a team with T.Y. Hilton. So he's not the number one, and he's not going to be the number one on the Colts. But there's a little bit of an injury concern. And he's had a shoulder AC joint sprain. He's had hamstring problems, which hamstring problems, as we know, are really tough on players.
Yes.
And very high re-injury rate. And a fractured scapula.
Scapula, you moron.
Scapula.
Scapula.
Scapula. I've
shoulder blade.
Yeah. Fractured shoulder blade. That sounds a little bit better. So that you've got that piled up on him, and I don't really know how I feel about Dante Moncrief. He's one of the ones that were really hard for me to rank. What do you think about him?
I still really like Moncrief. He's only 25 years old. Again, we know the solid years he's had with Luck, and when Luck's out there, Luck looks for Moncrief a lot in the red zone. Yeah. Which is why he had so many touchdowns there for a while. Again, at least 6 touchdowns in 2015 and 16. In 2016, he actually had one in every 4 catches he had was a touchdown. That's incredible numbers. So he's definitely the big wide receiver target that a lot of teams covet when it comes to getting in the end zone, because that's the ultimate goal. You want to score touchdowns. You're not trying to settle for field goals, and Moncrief can really bring that jump ball ability that a lot of teams want. So I think the Colts are going to keep him. I know you had Paul Richardson going to him, and that's why I compared the two. I think both can be good touchdown red zone presences, but but yeah, Moncrief and Luck, I think, get back together and have a pretty solid year in 2018. So yeah, sticking with the Colts.
Well, I'm going to go back to the Packers. I think
sending everybody to the Packers.
I know, I am. Allen Robinson, and caveat, that's just like a pipe dream. I think I would like to see Allen Robinson on the Packers, but the Packers aren't a team that will go out and spend a whole bunch of money on premier players.
Yeah.
That's just not their typical MO. So I think a more likely situation would be a player like Dante Moncrief added in there for depth, not a solid number 2, just kind of in there wide receiver rotation.
See, I don't know if the Packers will be willing to do that for a guy who's just solely basically a red zone guy, because they already have 2 of the best in football right now, Devontae Adams and Jordy Nelson. I think combined over the past 2 years they have the most red zone touchdowns out of anybody.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're going to be really willing to go out and get a Moncrief type player. I think they're going to be looking more towards a speedy guy over Moncrief. But I could see it. They're definitely. Packers are probably going to lose a few receivers in free agency, so maybe they'll go after Moncrief. But I just like him sticking with the Colts.
I can't argue with that.
All right, number 7 on our list, John Brown. 28 years old, which kind of shocked me. I didn't think he was that old.
Yeah, when I was looking at that, I would have pegged him to be more like 26.
Yeah.
28's a little on the older side.
He's older than Josh Gordon. So, that's pretty crazy.
That is weird.
Actually, he might be one of the oldest ones on our list. But anyway, John Brown, back-to-back disappointing seasons for Brown with only 60 catches combined from 2016 and 17.
It's not great.
Not great. Injuries have played a big part in that. In 2015, however, 65 catches, 65 catchers, and over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. He was one of the most explosive players on the field for the Cardinals, him and David Johnson together. Injury history, that's the big thing, though.
Yeah, that's what's really held him back.
He's had problems with turf toe, had a quad strain, hamstring injuries, a lot of soft tissue stuff. He's had concussions. I guess this all kind of trickles down from the sickle cell trait that he has.
Yeah.
And usually when you have the sickle cell trait and you have soft tissue injuries, it takes a lot longer to heal up, and it often leads to even more injuries just trying to recover from the injury you already have.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the big issue with John Brown. It's a little bit of a risk, but I still think he's incredibly explosive. He's got the speed. It's just whether he can stay healthy or not.
Yeah, and there are some serious John Brown truthers out there that just believe in him so much, and they're just waiting for him to be.
Oh, I believe.
They're waiting for Larry Fitzgerald to get out of the way and let John Brown.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's two totally different things.
Yeah. And I see where it's coming from. It's just, how long are you really willing to wait? He's such an injury risk, and I think that's what it all boils down to. I think you take away all those injuries, and he has some serious fantasy value. It's just every year it's something else.
Yeah.
And every year he misses multiple games. So it's a big risk. As far as where he is going to go, I am going to say the Cardinals are going to keep him.
Keep him?
Yep.
See, I don't know if they're going to hold on to him just because, one, risk. I think they like him there, but they got other guys. They do. Yeah. Larry Fitzgerald's obviously staying there for the long haul. He's not really a John Brown type, but they got Jerron Brown who can do the same thing as John Brown. They got J.J. Nelson who can do the same thing as John Brown. Yeah. I don't know if they want to keep three guys like that. Yeah. So I'm going to send. This is where I'm going to send a player to the Packers and John Brown. Obviously, they've been looking for a speedster the past couple years with Jordy losing a step. Devontae Adams, he's quick and he's really good off the line, but he's not really that top-end speed, like blow past everybody type of player. Randall Cobb, still more of a slot guy, not really blow past people either. But John Brown could really, really open up that offense, in my opinion. I think he could tear the top off of that, off of any defense, really, with Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. Yeah. So, I think the Packers are going to be more looking for a guy like this as opposed to a guy like Dante Moncrief or Allen Robinson. They just want a speedy guy who can really stretch the field. Yeah, and I don't blame you for picking that at all. The only thing I'd say about that is the Packers don't need any more injury risk. that is very true. Very true. That's the only thing. That's the only market really against John Brown that I have is just the injury thing. But I think that would be a great fit. They do need the underneath speedster. It wouldn't cost them a ton of money. No. He's not one of the top 5 guys that we've been talking about, but he has some serious value, and I think that would be a good fit for him. Yep. So coming in at number 8, we've got the 26-year-old Jordan Matthews. This is a guy that I don't know what it is about him. It's just like I forget about him halfway through the season, and then I remember him. Everyone forgets about him. I know, and I don't know what it is about him that makes it. Maybe he's not like that spectacular player. He's not flashy. He is not flashy, but he did not have a great year. It was not fantastic. 1 touchdown. 25 receptions. Yep. Not great. Hurt off and on. Yeah, and he had some injury issues as well. But in the past, he's been a great player. You want to talk about what he's done in the past couple of years? He's a year removed from 3 straight 800-yard seasons. That's fantastic, especially for a guy who's not really a number 1, but a definitely good slot receiver in Jordan Matthews. And he's a bigger slot receiver, kind of like a Larry Fitzgerald type slot receiver. Yeah. Here's a just mind-blowing stat for Jordan Matthews. In the history of the NFL, these are the players that have had 225 catches, 2,500 yards, 19 touchdowns in their first 3 seasons. Randy Moss, Larry Fitzgerald, A.J. Green, DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham, Mike Evans, and Jordan Matthews. That's pretty good company right there. That's an elite list. That is a fantastic list. And Jordan Matthews, again, I compare him to Larry Fitzgerald. I think he can do he's not as talented as Larry Fitzgerald because Larry Fitzgerald's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But Jordan Matthews is, I think, if he can fix his issues with drops and get a little more consistent there and get on a team that really, can value him more than the Bills can with Tyrod Taylor, because I don't think that's obviously not a great fit. I don't like the Bills wide receiver core at all for how that offense is run with Tyrod Taylor. Maybe if they got a better quarterback in the offseason, I'd be more willing to say that it'll work out, but I don't know. I guess the main questions with Jordan Matthews is, can he stay healthy and can he fix his drops? Because the injury history is I mean, there's a long list of injuries for Jordan Matthews. Now, as to where he's going to go,
this one was one of the toughest for me.
Yeah, I don't want to. I kind of just copped out and wrote the Bills. I really don't want to say that. I don't want to say that he's going to stay there. I'm trying to think of another team that could really use like a slot type of a receiver. Maybe the Colts there. I could see Jordan Matthews going to the Colts.
I can see that. I wrote down. I don't know how convinced I am about this. The Cowboys.
That I was about to say them as well. I don't know if they really have, or if they're willing to spend the money.
Yeah, I don't know that they have the need. I mean, obviously,
they definitely have the need because their wide receivers.
They have the wide receiver
garbage.
Need, particularly for a guy like Jordan Matthews, I don't know how well he would fit in there. Des Bryant's not doing anything. I mean, they should just part ways with him, in my opinion. But I'll stick with the Cowboys. I think they could benefit. They could benefit from his services.
Yeah. All right, number 9, Mike Wallace.
This another guy that you believed in hard in 2017.
I did. Hey, and I'll explain why here in a second. Here is the oldest receiver on our list.
Yeah.
Mike Wallace, 31 years old. He's been a solid receiver for close to a decade now. Usually a lock for 750 yards and 4 touchdowns. Not really your prototypical number 1 anymore. But I mean, he's reliable, not only with production, but I mean, Wallace has stayed healthy throughout his career. Only missed 2 games in 9 years.
That's very impressive.
That is very impressive. Big playability. He's got that. He's got a 50-plus yard touchdown in every year except for 1, so he can tear the top off of a team as well.
When I read that, I thought, I guess I skimmed over it. I read through the script, and it said 50-plus yard touchdown in every game but 1. I was like, what?
He's pretty good,
I was like, I know you believe in him, but I want to just make up stats.
That's my prediction for the future.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But no, talk about another guy. If there was a team that could really, really use that high-end, just a speedster, run down the field type of guy. I know I mentioned the Packers earlier. I don't think they want to add that much more age on their team.
No.
But Mike Wallace, he could fit in there. But I have him going to the Panthers. I think again they need another guy. They could definitely use more than one wide receiver in this free agent class. So yeah, I think Mike Wallace would be a nice fit for the Panthers.
I actually had him also going to the Panthers.
Whoop,
I think they actually do need a little bit of age at the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
A little bit of some old man wisdom.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he is 31, but like you said, I mean, he does have the big playability, and I think that would be a good compliment to Devin Funchess, because Funchess isn't going to be, I mean, I know there's going to be so much hype going into him. I think he's going to be drafted way too early in 2018 drafts. They do need someone to complement him, and I think Mike Wallace would be a pretty good fit.
Yeah.
As much as I don't want him to go there.
Yeah.
But at number 10, rounding out the top 10, last one we'll mention. This is one I'm not really confident in even putting him at number 10. I did. I think you put him at number 10 as well, right?
Yeah, somewhere in there. I don't. Yeah, everyone else has him in like their top 5 or top 3. But.
Yeah, we had him. We have different views on him from other analysts out there. Talking about Terrell Pryor, 29-year-old, bust of the year, I think, for us last year as far as fantasy production.
Yep.
Way, way, way overhyped going into 2017.
Surprisingly, the only quarterback on our wide receiver list.
Yes, that is very true. He did have over 1,000 yards with the Browns in 2016, and that's where the hype train was coming from.
Yep.
The fantasy community overestimated the difficulty it takes to play the wide receiver position in the NFL.
Yeah.
You can't just switch. I mean, you can't just you can't learn like
these
elite wide receivers who spent their whole life playing this one position. You can't just go in and just acquire the skills over the off season and figure out how to be a top talent wide receiver. I mean, and that's true with any position.
Yeah.
You go to running back. I mean,
you don't see it often work.
No, and this was a case where it just didn't work. And so the reason
people think it did.
Yes. The reason I think that I put him at number 10 is I still think that he has talent. I just don't think that it's being utilized correctly. You know, he went into a situation where they wanted him to be the X factor wide receiver, and it just didn't pan out. So I do think that a team will be able to tap into that talent, but they can't do the same thing that he did on the Redskins last year.
Yeah, definitely not. Obviously, when he was on Cleveland and playing wide receiver, he didn't play wide receiver all the time. He was quarterback half the time. Or you put him in wildcat situations, just snapping the ball. Like, everything went to Terrell Pryor. That's why the production was so high. And then he goes to the Redskins. Obviously, he gets hurt off and on, and that kind of hurt him with the Redskins in 2017. But even in the games he played, just 240 yards total on the year. Again, like you mentioned, he's super athletic, but he cannot play the position. He just cannot. He has mediocre hands. He has no route running ability whatsoever. Yeah,
his routes look awful, and he did have a problem with dropping balls, and he just can't catch it.
I don't know if it's a concentration thing, but like, people want to compare him to, like,
it's just not being a wide receiver thing.
Well, that too. Like, people want to compare him to, like, he's got the size of, I don't know, like a Des Bryant, and he's got the route or like the speed, top end speed to blow off the defense like Mike Wallace. And you got this super, super talented guy like another Josh Gordon. He's not a freaking wide receiver. No. I'm sick and tired of talking about him. He can't play the position. He just cannot. Just the hands, route running, it's bad. And on top of that, you got injury history with him as well. He's dealt with fractured ankles, a hamstring injury, a sprained MCL, 2 concussions. He's on the older side, 29 years old, and now trying to move positions is hard enough, but trying to do it at 29 years old is even harder. Yeah. So people want to rank him really high. I don't even want to put, honestly. No. We put him in our top 10 just so we could talk about him.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest reason I put him in there. Like, there's multiple people. Honestly, there's a ton of people I would put before him. I wanted to put.
I don't even know if he'd be in my top 20, honestly.
No, I'd put Taylor Gabriel in front of him. I'd put Kendall Wright in front of him.
Bryce Butler, I'll put in front of him.
Just any wide receiver, honestly. But, we wanted to talk about that, and he is super talented. Just not being utilized as a wide receiver. No, and
maybe someone can figure out how to use him properly, but true. I just especially if they want to do what the Redskins try to do and make him a number 1 wide receiver type of guy, it's not going to work. It is not going to work. I'll tell you that now. So I think he's going to go back to the Browns. There's been a lot of talk that the Browns want to bring him back in. Yeah.
I don't think that. I mean, I don't know that.
Honestly, it's not if. It kind of worked out for the Browns because in 2016, they saw what he can do, I guess, like what he could possibly do in the future. Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen again, obviously. But they have that.
At least he knows a system.
Yeah. They have that, and then they ship him or let him go. He goes to the Redskins. Redskins fork over the money for him, and now I think he's going to come back to the Browns for a whole lot cheaper than he would have. Yep. So
that's what you get when you bet on yourself.
Yep, you fall flat on your face.
Yeah.
So don't try.
No. I think that there's a very strong case for him going back to Cleveland. I've got him going to the Bears. Honestly, we're never talking about him just in general. There's so much unknown. And I kind of feel the same way about the Bears right now. It's just kind of a big unknown. So just throw them together. Maybe they'll figure something out.
I'd love that as a Packers fan.
Oh yeah,
that's another terrible situation. A young quarterback with a quarterback trying to change positions. That'd be incredible.
Yeah. So that is our top 10. Just to run back through them for you, we've got Allen Robinson at number 1, Sammy Watkins, Josh Gordon, Marquise Lee, Paul Richardson, Dante Moncrief, John Brown, Jordan Matthews, Mike Wallace, and Terrell Pryor. You want to go over our honorable mentions, Brandon?
Yeah, I'll go through those just real quick. Did we... I think Josh Gordon was the only one that wasn't unrestricted, right? In our top 10.
Yeah.
So the rest were unrestricted. So they're free to sign wherever they want.
Yeah.
A few of these honorable mentions, like Cameron Meredith, he's a restricted free agent. Almost broke our top 10. Again, I'd put him over Terrell Pryor. We just wanted to talk about him.
Yeah.
Danny Amendola, he was close to our top 10. I think he was in your top 10.
Yep.
Taylor Gabriel, Tyrell Williams, he's a restricted free agent, but I think he can be. I think he's one of the more talented guys out of all of these guys on our list. Bruce Ellington, Texans, probably are going to let him go. They got a bunch of other guys that can basically do the same thing he can. Kendall Wright, he's been bouncing around a few teams. Bryce Butler, I think another guy who's been underappreciated on his team. Cowboys, I really doubt that they keep him. They just don't seem to like him whatsoever. If I were the Cowboys, I'd get rid of Dez Bryant and bring Bryce Butler back. But that's just me. Willie Snead, he's a restricted free agent. Had a disappointing year last year, so I don't know what the Saints are really going to do there. Jeff Janis, another guy, underutilized. We've seen him show flashes of, remarkable athleticism in big games. So maybe Jeff Janis gets a chance somewhere. And then Quincy Enunwa, restricted free agent as well, but I think the Jets will probably hold on to him just because the whole Robbie Anderson situation, we don't really know what's going to happen there. Yeah. So they need some guy to be reliable in that offense. Did you want to talk about any of those guys specifically?
No, not specifically. I think the only one that I had in my top 10 that didn't make the list was Danny Amendola. But, you know.
And again, I like Amendola, but it's again the whole Patriots thing.
Moving out
of the Patriots offense. It's not as bad with wide receivers as it is running backs, but it's just a whole different world playing for the Patriots.
Yeah, if you want to hear the same conversation that we would have right now about Danny Amendola, just listen to last week's episode and listen to the Dion Lewis conversation because it's the exact same. Just input Danny Amendola's name.
Input here. Now, what are your favorite cheaper wide receiver options? That obviously Allen Robinson and Sammy Watkins are going to be the highly coveted guys, but what are some of the cheaper options that are out there on the wide receiver market?
I'm going to give you two. One well-known one and one deep track.
Deep track, yeah. Please do.
Okay, the kind of well-known one that I think would fit into an offensive system pretty well, Taylor Gabriel, wide receiver for the Falcons. I think that he is super talented, and they've got a lot of stuff going on in Atlanta. Obviously, you have Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu. Julio Jones is amazing.
You don't say.
He's really good at playing the wide receiver position. Huh. But I think Taylor Gabriel could go to a number of teams and have a big impact.
All right.
Deep tracks. Adam Humphries.
Yes, yeah, I should have known.
Yeah,
no, I like that. I like that though.
I know anyone out there can call me a homer if you want, but I really believe in Adam Humphries. He has great hands. He is pretty quick. Not Deshaun Jackson.
No.
Level of quickness, but he's been a reliable target for Jameis Winston in that offense, and he's stuck through it. Honestly, I hope they keep him because I think that he does have a big impact, and he's reliable. He doesn't get hurt a lot. He's got good hands. He's on the smaller side, but he fits into that role that he plays.
Poor man's Adam Thielen.
He is a poor man's Adam Thielen. So I think that's a great free agent, and like I said, I hope the Buccaneers hold on to him.
Yeah. I'm gonna say cheaper options. Jeff Janis. I don't think he's gonna get paid that much because a lot of teams just look at him as a special teamer. But I'm hoping some team out there.
I've liked what I've seen from Jeff Janis.
Oh yeah, I mean, you look back at if you want to watch like some really good tape on Jeff Janis. I know people talk about he's the preseason hero. Don't look at that. Look at Packers Cardinals a few years ago in the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember that.
That game was like Jeff Janis just lost his mind in that game. And just incredible hands. He's got good size, great speed. Jeff Janis just needs a chance in the NFL to be a
just give the boy a chance.
Just give him a chance. And then Bryce Butler. Again, I won't dive into that again too much, but I think he's the most underutilized player on the Cowboys. He's been nothing but great when he gets the ball in his hands. So Bryce Butler, I like a lot.
Yep, I like that.
So I guess last question before we wrap it up. Which wide receiver with which team, which combo, do you think would be best for fantasy purposes?
Oh, man. This one's tough.
And you don't have to say Allen Robinson or Sammy Watkins if you don't want to. Obviously, that'd be kind of a cop-out. But
yeah, that's a cop-out. I'm going to say Terrell Pryor to the Bears.
I hate you. I hate you so much.
No. I won't say that. Honestly, I want to say Paul Richardson to someone. I think I really like what I see out of him, and I'll just say Colts.
All right,
I'll say Colts.
Yeah, I was gonna say Josh Gordon, just being on the Browns, just staying with the Browns. Honestly,
yeah.
I know it's not the best situation at the moment, but they get the right quarterback in there. Hopefully, Josh Allen, if I'm predicting correctly. Then I think that would be fantastic for that offense and Josh Gordon. I will since that's kind of a cop out. I'll say Jordan Matthews to the Colts.
Okay.
Now that I think about that, because I didn't even before in my notes I didn't even think about putting him on the Colts. But yeah, I think that could be really, really good if Andrew Luck is healthy. That's the question, and if Jordan Matthews is healthy. Yep.
Yeah. All right. You want to close this out?
Yeah. So I guess that's all for the wide receiver episode. We'll be back next week to talk tight ends, and then after that, we might do a recap of all free agency, or we might just give you updates throughout the offseason. But after the tight ends, we're going to start talking NFL draft. We'll recap a little bit of the combine. Again, I don't put that much emphasis on the combine in general. A lot of pro days will be going on in the next couple weeks as well, so we'll give you all that, updates and everything. So make sure you go and follow us on Twitter at the423football. That's where you can stay up to date on everything. You can send us questions, anything like that. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. Give us a like. Leave your comments and reviews. Share us with the world. Thanks for listening. We are the 423 Football Podcast.
Peace out.